Richard Eskow is joining me. He's senior fellow at Campaign for America's Future and also host of The Breakdown on We Act Radio. Richard, let's first talk about VPs. We've talked about this a little bit over the last couple of months. Who might be Mitt Romney's choice for vice president? I'm most interested in this idea that if he picks the right person, maybe Democrats would be so taken with his choice that they would vote for Mitt Romney instead of Barack Obama. Is there anyone in your mind that could have that much of an effect?
You know, not in real life. I mean, sure, I guess if he picked Bernie Sanders, or Russ Feingold or somebody, but realistically, from the people that he's got to choose from, I can't imagine, from the Republican side, yeah, maybe John Huntsman. But if he did that, then he'd alienate his own base. So the chances of that happening, to me, are microscopically small.
Not only that, I find it hard to imagine that the Republican establishment would think it was a good idea to have two Mormons running on the same ticket, don't you think?
I didn't even think of the two Mormon thing, but yeah, absolutely. So, I can't imagine who you would pick that would excite Democrats enough to cross over. I mean, a few Democrats probably will cross over because you always have that happening, in either party. But the idea that he's going to get them streaming to him is because of the vice president, to me, is just impractical.
If we look at kind of a VP pick in the context of a state-by-state strategy, there's some thought that if Marco Rubio is the selection, maybe that would be a definitive swing in Florida towards Mitt Romney, which could be important in the end, those electoral votes. I mean, it's interesting because among Hispanic voters, Cuban voters are the only ones that are even remotely conservative on the whole. And I'm curious what your thought would be about trying to play for that Florida strategy with Rubio. Maybe that would play in Arizona or New Mexico. I don't know.
Well, there are other groups of Hispanic voters that are conservative or have been willing to vote Republican. Cuban Americans, as a rule, are much more politically conservative, which is not true of other Hispanics. But there are conservative Hispanic voters. I guess the issue with Rubio is, could he bring Florida? Potentially, and that makes him a leading candidate. He's had some issues of credibility in the past. He apparently misrepresented his own personal history, and there's some questions here and there about what might be in his closet. But that aside, he's personable, he's telegenic. He could conceivably bring Florida. Whether he'd bring in Hispanics from the Southwest or the West or other parts of the country, it's hard to say because there is a kind of cultural gap sometimes, I think, between different groups. But, he'd be an attractive but risky choice, one, for what we don't know about his background, and two, for, he's very, very conservative. And Romney is now very wisely, and I think pretty effectively, pivoting to being moderate, centrist, unscary. So the other challenge with Rubio would be, can they make him a little less scary for the general voter?
Let's talk a little bit about, we've been hearing so much lately about the President Obama signing off individually on this kill list. We've been hearing about drone strikes and incredibly this measurement where apparently now any able-bodied male who is not a child or I forget if it's age specific, is not considered a civilian casualty because in theory they might be a terrorist. And these things are not playing well with a lot of progressives. But let's talk about it in the context of the election. Is it going to push them to vote for Mitt Romney? It's hard to imagine.
No, because I don't think there's a credible alternative in Mitt Romney to, I used to say, in the pre-Obama era, I used to have the line that a conservative was somebody who believed in the right to life from the moment of conception till the moment you're born Muslim. But I can't use that line anymore because now that's also true of Obama and many of the Democrats who support his actions in this area, which are frankly horrifying. The expansion of presidential powers, the murdering of American citizens without any sort of due process is pretty ghastly stuff. And I think it alienates Democrats, but it's not going to cause them to vote for Mitt Romney, who it would be very likely doing the same thing. I think what the Democrats need to be worried about, and what I think they're naive and foolish not to be putting on the front burner, is not that Democratic voters will go to Mitt Romney, but that they'll stay home. This is going to be about turnout and energizing the base, and it's kind of hard to energize your base when you ran as the anti-war candidate, and now you're all about blowing up wedding parties in Pakistan. And I'm not saying that's all Obama's about, but that's certainly been part of his record, and unless he does something about that, that's going to keep some people home, and the more people stay home on his side, the easier it is for Mitt Romney to win.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we've talked about the Ralph Nader effect. This is something different but related, in the sense that maybe progressive voters just don't have someone progressive enough to vote for, and it ends up also playing directly into the hands of Republicans.
Right. I mean, I think that there's this incredible sort of combination of contempt and naivete that the Democratic leadership has toward their own base. I think on the one hand, ever since the days of Lyndon Johnson, I have a friend who's in his 80s who was a political guy in the 50s, and they always used to say to him, about the base, well, where are they going to go? They got no place to go. They'll vote for us in the end. And many times that's true. But look, youth voter turnout, for example, was lower in 2010 for the congressional elections than it was in 2006, before most of us had even heard of Barack Obama. So that Obama energy had already been more than dissipated. Youth voters had been already turned off by 2010, and Democrats lost the House. To me, that's a very scary and very important sign for the future that the Democratic political consultants don't seem to be paying much attention to.
Absolutely. Okay, Richard Eskow, Senior Fellow at the Campaign for America's Future, also host of The Breakdown on We Act Radio. Really great to talk to you. We'll have you back soon.
I enjoyed it. Thanks, David.